I'm Daniel, a man who thought he'd cracked the code to a good life. Married to Clara for 12 years, we'd built something solid. A home in the suburbs, 2 kids, Ethan and Lily, and careers that kept us busy but fulfilled. Clara was a graphic designer, her creativity spilling into every corner of our lives. From the vibrant murals on our kids' walls to the way she'd surprise me with handwritten notes tucked into my briefcase. I worked as a financial analyst, steady and predictable, the kind of guy who liked numbers because they didn't lie. Our life wasn't perfect, but it was ours and I trusted it. Trusted her. Lately, though, something felt off. It wasn't anything I could pin down at first. Just a flicker in her eyes when she'd laugh. A hesitation before she'd answer a question about her day. She'd started staying late at her studio, claiming deadlines for a big client project. I didn't question it. Clara was passionate, and I loved that about her. But the late nights stretched into weeks, and the kids started asking why Mom was always gone. I'd make excuses, cook dinner, help with homework, and tell myself it was temporary. One evening, I found her phone on the kitchen counter, buzzing with a notification. I wasn't the type to snoop, never had been, but curiosity got the better of me. The screen lit up with a message from someone named Alex. Asterisk, missed you today. Same time tomorrow. Asterisk, my stomach twisted. Alex could be anyone, a coworker, a friend. I didn't know an Alex, but Clara had a wide circle. I put the phone down, feeling guilty for even looking. But the name stuck, burrowing into my thoughts like a splinter. Over the next few days, I watched her closer. The way she'd smile at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. The way she'd linger in the bathroom. The faint sound of typing behind the door. I tried to ask about her work, about this big project, but her answers were vague, her tone clipped. Just busy, Dan. You know how it is. I didn't push, but the splinter grew, sharp and unrelenting. I started noticing other things. Her perfume was stronger some days, her clothes more carefully chosen for client meetings. I told myself I was paranoid, that marriage was about trust. But trust, I was learning, could be a fragile thing. By the end of the month, the doubt was a constant hum in my chest. I couldn't shake the image of that message, the casual intimacy of it. I decided to do something I'd never done before. I checked her laptop when she was asleep. It was open on the couch, still logged in. My hands shook as I opened her email, then her messages. Nothing obvious at first, just work stuff, mom group chats. But then, in a folder labeled Miscellaneous, I found it. A thread with Alex. No last name, just Alex. The messages were short but damning. Asterisk, can't stop thinking about you. Need to see you again. Asterisk, my heart pounded so loud I thought it'd wake her. I closed the laptop, my vision blurring. Clara, my Clara, was slipping away, and I hadn't even noticed. I didn't confront her that night. Couldn't. The kids were asleep down the hall, and the house felt too small for the truth. Instead, I lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our life together. The vacations, the late-night talks, the way she'd rest her head on my chest. Was it all a lie? I didn't know yet, but I knew I had to find out. Not just for me, but for Ethan and Lily. For the life we'd built. I wasn't ready to let it crumble, not without a fight. The next morning, Clara kissed me goodbye like nothing was wrong. Her lips soft and familiar. I smiled, nodded, went through the motions. But as she left, I made a decision. I'd follow her. I'd see who Alex was, and I'd figure out just how deep this betrayal ran. The splinter was gone now, replaced by something colder, harder. I wasn't just hurt, I was angry, and I was going to get answers. The first time I followed Clara, I felt like a stranger in my own life. It was a Thursday, one of those crisp fall days where the air smells like leaves and possibility. She'd told me she had a late meeting, so I left work early, citing a headache, and parked my car a block from her studio. The building was a converted warehouse, all glass and brick, where she shared space with other creatives. I sat there, sipping cold coffee, feeling ridiculous. What was I doing? Spying on my wife like some jealous teenager? But then I saw her. She stepped out at 6:47 p.m., her coat slung over one arm, her hair catching the streetlight. She didn't head to her car. Instead, she walked 2 blocks to a cafe I'd never heard of, a place with fairy lights and mismatched chairs. I followed at a distance, my pulse hammering. She sat by the window and a man joined her. He was tall, maybe late 30s, with dark hair and a smile that looked too easy. Alex, I assumed. They leaned close, laughing, her hand brushing his arm. I couldn't hear their words, but their body language screamed familiarity. My chest tightened, and I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. I didn't storm in. I wanted to, God, I wanted to, but I needed more. Proof. Something undeniable. So I watched, took photos with my phone, zoomed in until their faces filled the screen. They stayed for an hour, then left together, walking to a sleek black car parked nearby. I guessed. They drove off and I followed, keeping my distance. The city blurred past, neon signs, honking taxis, but all I saw was them. They stopped at a boutique hotel, the kind that screamed discretion. She went inside with him, her hand in his. I didn't follow. Couldn't. Not yet. Back home, I sat in the dark, the kids asleep, the house too quiet. Clara texted me. Meeting ran late. Grabbing dinner with the team. Home soon. I stared at the lie, my thumb hovering over the reply button. I wanted to type, who's Alex? I saw you. Instead. I wrote, no worries. Take your time. It felt like surrender, but it wasn't. I was biding my time, building my case. I pulled up the photos, studied them. His face wasn't familiar, but I'd find out who he was. I had to. The next day, I hired a private investigator. His name was Mike, a gruff guy in his 50s who'd seen it all. I gave him the photos, Clara's schedule, everything I knew. Discreet, I told him. I need the truth, but I don't want her to know. He nodded, no judgment in his eyes. Give me a week, he said. I agreed, though every second felt like a lifetime. At home, I played the part, doting husband, patient dad, while inside I was unraveling. Clara noticed nothing or pretended not to. She'd hum while cooking, kiss my cheek, ask about my day. Each gesture felt like a cut. Mike's first report came faster than expected. Alex was Alexander Reed, a freelance photographer who'd worked with Clara on a project 6 months ago. Single, no kids, lived in a loft downtown. The report included photos, more than I'd taken. Them at the cafe, the hotel, even a park where they'd sat on a bench, her head on his shoulder. I read it alone in my car, the words blurring as my anger grew. This wasn't a fling. It was a relationship, one she'd chosen over us. I didn't confront her yet. I needed to know how far she'd gone, how much she'd hidden. But the anger was shifting, sharpening into something else. Resolve. Clara had betrayed me, betrayed our kids, our vows. I wasn't just going to catch her. I was going to make her regret it. Not with shouting or tears, but with something colder, something she'd never see coming. I didn't know what yet, but I'd find it. And when I did, she'd understand what it meant to break a man like me. Living with Clara became an exercise in restraint. Every morning, I'd wake to her beside me, her breathing soft, her face peaceful, and I'd feel the weight of her secret like a stone in my gut. I'd make coffee, pack the kids' lunches, smile through their chatter about school, all while watching her from the corner of my eye. She was good, too good, at pretending nothing had changed. She'd ruffle Ethan's hair, tease Lily about her new obsession with bracelets, and lean into me as we stood at the sink, her warmth a cruel mockery of what we'd had. I played along, but every touch, every word was a calculation now. I was gathering pieces, waiting for the moment to strike. Mike's updates came daily, each one a fresh wound. Clara and Alex had a routine. Coffee at that cafe, stolen hours at his loft, occasional nights at the hotel. Mike had even gotten audio. Nothing explicit, just snippets of laughter. Her voice soft and unguarded in a way I hadn't heard in months. "You make me feel alive," she'd said once. The words caught by a tiny mic Mike had planted in her purse. I listened to it in my office, door locked, the sound of her betrayal looping until I couldn't breathe. Alive. What was I then? The man who paid the mortgage, coached Ethan's soccer team, held her when her mom got sick? Was that death to her? I started digging deeper, not just into Alex but into Clara's world. I checked her bank statements, nothing unusual, but she'd always been careful with money. Her social media was clean, all family photos and artsy posts, but I found an old backup of her phone on our shared cloud drive. It was a gold mine. Deleted texts, photos, even a draft email she'd never sent, gushing about a new inspiration. That wasn't me. The timestamps matched Alex's entry into her life. I saved everything, organized it in a folder labeled taxes on my laptop. Irony maybe, but it felt fitting. The hardest part was the kids. Ethan, 10, was starting to sense something, asking why I seemed weird. Lily, 7, just wanted Clara to read her bedtime stories again. I covered for her, spun tales of dragons and pirates, but my heart wasn't in it. I'd look at their faces, his freckles, her gap-toothed smile, and feel a rage I didn't know I could hold. Clara wasn't just cheating on me. She was cheating on them, our family, the life we'd promised to protect. I started taking them to my parents' house more, needing space to think without their innocent eyes on me. One night, Clara came home late, smelling faintly of wine and that perfume I now hated. She slid into bed, murmuring something about a tough day. I lay still, my back to her, and asked, casual as I could, "How's the project going? Meet anyone interesting?" She paused too long, then laughed. "Just the usual chaos. Nobody special. Nobody special." The lie was so smooth it almost convinced me. Almost. I turned over, looked at her in the dark, her silhouette soft against the moonlight. "Good," I said. "I'd hate for you to get distracted." She didn't reply, but I felt her tense beside me. Mike called the next day with a bombshell. Alex wasn't just a photographer. He'd been married before, briefly, and his ex had filed a restraining order, citing emotional manipulation. It wasn't much, but it was a thread to pull. I told Mike to dig into that, to find anything I could use, not just against Clara, but against him. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but knowledge was power, and I was done feeling powerless. The plan was forming, vague but growing, like a storm on the horizon. Clara thought she could live two lives, keep me in the dark. She was wrong. I'd shine a light on every corner of her betrayal, and when I was ready, I'd make her face it all. The weeks blurred into a strange rhythm, playing the dutiful husband by day, unraveling Clara's lies by night. I'd become a master at hiding my anger, nodding through her stories about work, even complimenting her on a new dress she'd worn for him. It was torture, but it kept her off guard. She didn't suspect a thing, or if she did, she hid it better than I ever could. Her confidence was her weakness, I realized. She thought I was too predictable, too trusting. That was my advantage. Mike's investigation deepened. He tracked Alex's past, pulling records I'd never have found alone. The restraining order was just the start. Alex had a history of charming women, then discarding them when things got messy. One ex had even blogged about it anonymously, describing a man who made you feel like the only person in the world, then left you empty. Sounded like Clara's alive comment. I wondered if she knew, if she'd seen the red flags and ignored them, or maybe she was too far gone to care. Either way, I saved the blog, added it to my growing file. I started testing her, subtle at first. I'd mention a cafe near Alex's loft, ask if she'd been there. Her answers were quick, too quick, her eyes darting away. I'd leave my phone out, unlocked, to see if she'd check it. She didn't, which told me she wasn't worried about me catching on. I even suggested a weekend away, just us, to reconnect. She hesitated, mumbled about deadlines, and I let it drop, but I saw the relief in her smile when I didn't push. Every lie she told, every excuse, was another brick in the wall I was building around her. The kids kept me grounded, though it was getting harder to shield them. Ethan caught Clara snapping at me one morning. Something small, about dishes, and he asked later, "Why's Mom so mad all the time?" I didn't have an answer, not one I could give a 10-year-old. I took him and Lily for ice cream instead, let them ramble about school while I tried to memorize their laughter. They deserved better than this, better than a mother who'd trade their stability for a thrill. I'd make sure they got it, no matter what it took. Mike got me something big one Friday, a keycard to Alex's loft, swiped from a cleaning service. He didn't ask what I planned to do with it, just warned me to be careful. I didn't go right away. I needed a plan, something more than just confronting them. But the keycard burned a hole in my pocket, a tangible piece of their world I now held. I started imagining what I'd find. Photos of them, her things mingled with his. The thought made me sick, but it also fueled me. I wasn't just chasing truth anymore. I was chasing control. That night, Clara came home humming, her cheeks flushed. She kissed me, too hard, like she was proving something. "Good day," I asked, keeping my voice light. "The best," she said, and I knew she wasn't talking about work. I poured her wine, watched her sip it, and wondered how she could sit there, across from me, and feel nothing. I didn't ask about Alex. I didn't need to. Mike had sent me a photo that afternoon. Her and Alex at a gallery opening, her hand on his back, his lips near her ear. I'd stared at it until my eyes burned, memorizing every detail. The revenge was taking shape, though I hadn't named it yet. It wasn't enough to expose her, to yell or leave. I wanted her to feel what I felt, The slow, grinding betrayal, the loss of something you thought was yours. I wanted Alex to lose, too, to see his charm wasn't invincible. I didn't know how yet, but I'd find a way to break them both, to make them regret ever crossing me. The keycard was a start. The truth was my weapon, and I was just getting started. Holding that keycard felt like holding a grenade. I carried it everywhere, tucked in my wallet, a constant reminder of what was at stake. I hadn't used it yet. Part of me wasn't ready to cross that line, to step into Alex's world and see the evidence up close. But the temptation grew, especially on nights when Clara was working late, and I was alone with my thoughts. I'd sit in the living room, the TV muted, imagining her with him. The way she'd laugh, the way she'd touch him. It wasn't just betrayal, it was theft. She'd stolen pieces of herself from me, from us, and given them to a stranger. Mike kept feeding me information, each piece sharper than the last. He'd hacked into Alex's email. Not entirely legal, he admitted, but I didn't care. There were messages between them, dozens, some so casual they hurt worse than the intimate ones. Asterisk, grabbed your favorite coffee. Left my scarf at your place. Asterisk, it was the mundanity that gutted me. Their affair wasn't just passion. It was a life they were building, parallel to mine. One email from Clara stood out, sent 2 weeks ago. Asterisk, I don't know how to do this forever, but I don't want to stop. Asterisk, I read it over and over, the words carving into me. She didn't want to stop. Fine. I'd make her. I started planting seeds at home, small things to unsettle her. I'd leave the cafe's name on a post-it, ask offhand if she'd seen Alex's photography online. Her reactions were subtle, a tighter smile, a quick subject change, but I saw them. I wanted her to wonder, to feel the ground shift beneath her. One night, I accidentally left my laptop open to a search for boutique hotels. She glanced at it, froze for a split second, then kept scrolling on her phone. I didn't call her out. I didn't need to. The doubt was there, and I'd nurture it until it bloomed. The kids were my anchor, but even they couldn't keep the darkness at bay forever. Lily drew a picture at school, a family portrait, but Clara's face was just a blank oval. I didn't know what to make her look like, she said, confused. Ethan was quieter, spending hours on his tablet, avoiding both of us. I took them to therapy, told Clara it was for school stress. She bought it or pretended to. I hated lying to them, but I hated her more for making it necessary. I vowed they'd come out of this hole even if I didn't. Mike suggested I use the keycard soon. Alex was out of town for a shoot, a rare window. I drove to his loft that weekend, heart pounding, the city a blur of lights and noise. The building was modern, all glass and steel, the kind of place Clara would love. I swiped the card, half expecting an alarm, but the door clicked open. Inside, it was exactly what I'd feared. Her presence everywhere. A scarf on the couch, her favorite mug on the counter, a sketchbook I'd given her years ago, now filled with doodles for him. I didn't touch anything, just took photos, my hands steady despite the storm inside me. I found a letter, too, tucked in a drawer. Her handwriting addressed to Alex. Asterisk, you're my escape, but I'm scared it's more. What are we doing? Asterisk, I didn't take it. Too risky. But I memorized every word. Escape. She thought she could run from me, from our life. I left the loft, the keycard heavier now, and drove home in silence. The plan was clearer, though still incomplete. Exposure wasn't enough. I wanted her to lose what she valued most. Her reputation, her confidence, her precious, alive feeling. And Alex? He'd lose his charm, his freedom to prey on women like her. Back home, Clara was asleep, oblivious. I stood over her, watching her breathe, and felt something new. Not just anger, but purpose. I'd been a good husband, a good father. Now I'd be something else. She'd built this betrayal, brick by brick. I'd tear it down, and when I did, she'd see me for the first time. Not as predictable Daniel, but as the man who'd outsmarted her. The man who'd won. Clara's world was a house of cards, and I was learning how to blow it down without her noticing. Yet, every move I made now was deliberate, designed to chip away at her certainty. I didn't want her to see me as the wounded husband. I wanted her to see shadows, to question her own steps. That Monday, I left a receipt on the kitchen counter. One I'd fabricated for a coffee shop near Alex's loft. It wasn't blatant, just a name, a date, a latte. When she saw it, her fingers paused, her eyes narrowing for a fraction of a second before she smiled and asked about my day. I shrugged, said I'd been trying new places. She didn't push, but I saw the flicker of unease. Good. Let her wonder. Mike was relentless, feeding me details I both craved and dreaded. He'd tapped into Alex's social circle, posing as a client to get closer. Alex was cocky, Mike said, the kind of guy who thought charm could fix anything. He bragged about Clara to a buddy over drinks. Nothing specific, just enough to confirm she wasn't a secret. She's different, he'd said, according to Mike's recording. Not like the others. The others. The phrase stuck, a reminder of who I was dealing with. Clara thought she was special to him, but I'd show her she was just a chapter in his playbook. At home, I kept up the act, attentive but distant, giving her just enough rope to hang herself. I'd ask about her work, her team, dropping Alex's name once or twice as if I'd heard it in passing. Oh, that photographer guy, right? Talented, I bet. Her answers were careful, her laugh a little too bright. I'd nod, change the subject, let the tension simmer. One night, I suggested we check out a gallery opening, knowing Alex had been at one with her. She stammered, said she was too tired. I didn't push, just smiled and said, maybe next time. The air between us was thick with things unsaid, and I thrived on it. The kids were my priority, always. I spent more time with them, shielding them from the storm I was brewing. Ethan's soccer games became my sanctuary. Watching him run, cheering him on, I could almost forget the betrayal. Lily clung to me more, sensing something was off. I'd braid her hair, tell her stories, promise her everything would be okay. And it would. I'd make sure of it. But I also started preparing them, subtly, for a future where Clara might not be the center. I'd talk about Dad's adventures with them, planting the idea that we could be a unit, just the three of us, if it came to that. Mike got me something new, a burner phone Alex used for side projects. It wasn't linked to Clara yet, but it had texts to other women, flirty and vague. I told Mike to keep digging, to find a way to tie it to her. If I could show she wasn't his only one, it'd crack her illusion of being alive with him. I didn't just want her to lose him. I wanted her to see him for what he was, a user, a fraud. I started thinking bigger, too. What if I could turn his world against him? His clients, his reputation. The thought was intoxicating, but I held back. Timing was everything. That Friday, Clara came home late, her eyes bright, her voice too cheerful. She'd been with him. I could smell his cologne on her jacket when she hugged me. I didn't flinch, just kissed her cheek and asked about her night. Just work stuff, she said, avoiding my gaze. I nodded, poured her a glass of water, and watched her sip it, oblivious to the trap closing around her. I'd stopped feeling pain now, it was all strategy. Every lie she told was another move on my board, and I was playing to win. She'd chosen this path. I'd make sure it led to ruin, not just for her, but for the man she thought she loved. The game was shifting, and I was finding my rhythm. Clara's confidence was still her shield, but I was learning how to pierce it. I started leaving more clues, nothing overt, just enough to keep her off balance. A photo of that cafe on my phone, accidentally left open. A mention of a hotel I'd heard was nice, the same one she'd visited with Alex. Each time, I'd watch her reaction. Tight lips, a quick glance away. She was good at covering, but not perfect. I didn't need her to confess. I needed her to doubt, to feel the walls closing in. Mike's work was paying off in ways I hadn't expected. He'd found a disgruntled ex-client of Alex's, a gallery owner who'd caught him skimming profits. The guy was bitter, willing to talk for a price. Mike set up a meeting, and I went as a concerned friend. The owner, Paul, spilled everything. Alex's shady deals, his habit of charming his way out of trouble. Paul had emails, invoices, proof of Alex's double-dipping. I took copies, thanked him, and left with a new piece of the puzzle. Alex wasn't just a cheater, he was a hustler. And hustlers had enemies. I used this to my advantage. I created an anonymous email account and sent a tip to a local art blog, hinting at Alex's questionable practices, with just enough detail to spark curiosity. I didn't mention Clara. She wasn't the target yet. But I knew how gossip worked in her world. A whisper about Alex would reach her, make her question him. I wanted her to see cracks in his perfect facade before I pulled the rug out. At home, I kept the pressure on, asking about her creative friends, suggesting we host a dinner for her studio crew. Maybe invite that Alex guy, I said once, casual as anything. She choked on her wine, laughed it off. I smiled, let it go. The kids were my compass, keeping me from losing myself in the revenge. Ethan started opening up more, asking if we could move to a place with a bigger yard someday. Just you, me, and Lily, he said, and it broke me. He knew something was wrong, even if he couldn't name it. I promised him we'd always be okay, no matter what. Lily was quieter, drawing more blank-faced moms in her sketchbook. I took them camping one weekend, just us, no Clara. We roasted marshmallows, told ghost stories, and for a few hours I felt like the dad I used to be. But the anger was always there, waiting. Mike got me into Alex's burner phone records. Texts to 3 other women, all vague enough to dodge commitment but warm enough to keep them hooked. One was a married editor, another a single mom who ran a frame shop. None were Clara, but the pattern was clear. I had Mike draft a message from the burner to Clara, something Alex might say, asterisk, needs space for a bit. You get it, right? Asterisk, I didn't send it, too risky, but I kept it ready, a bullet in the chamber. If she thought Alex was pulling away, it'd shake her more than any confrontation. Clara was slipping, though she hid it well. She'd forget things, Ethan's game schedule, Lily's parent-teacher night. I'd cover, always with a smile, but I'd mention it later, gentle, like I was worried. You okay, babe? You seem distracted. She'd snap back, then apologize, blaming stress. I'd nod, hold her hand, let her think I bought it. But I saw the strain in her eyes, the way she'd check her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. The blog tip had worked. Alex's name was floating in art circles now, not with proof, but with questions. She'd hear it soon, if she hadn't already. I wasn't just breaking her affair. I was breaking her world, Alex's reputation, her trust in him, her sense of control. It was all crumbling, and she didn't even know I was the one holding the hammer. But I was patient. The real blow was coming, and when it landed, she'd have nowhere to hide. The air in our house felt heavier now, like the prelude to a storm. Clara was still playing her part. Smiling mom, devoted wife, but the edges were fraying. She'd snap at small things, like Lily leaving crayons on the table, then overcompensate with hugs and apologies. I watched it all, silent, cataloging every slip. She was unraveling, and I was the invisible thread pulling her apart. The art blog had done its job. Alex's name was now tied to rumors of misconduct. Nothing concrete, but enough to make people whisper. I knew it'd reach her soon. Mike called with a breakthrough. He'd found a way to access Clara's private email, the one she thought was hidden. It was a treasure trove. Messages to Alex, not just flirty but raw, vulnerable. I'm risking everything for you, she'd written last month. Asterisk, don't make me regret it. Asterisk, reading it felt like swallowing glass. But it also lit a fire. She'd chosen this risk, this man, over our family. I printed the emails, stored them in a locked box under my desk. Not for me, but for what was coming. Evidence wasn't enough. I needed leverage. I upped the pressure at home. I'd hum a song I knew she'd heard with Alex. One Mike had caught them dancing to in his loft. I'd leave my laptop open to a travel site, a hotel page bookmarked, the same one they'd used. She noticed, I could tell. Her laughs were sharper, her eyes darting to me when she thought I wasn't looking. One night, I asked about her sketchbook, the one I'd seen at Alex's. Haven't seen you draw in a while, I said casual. Where's that old one you loved? She froze, mumbled something about misplacing it, then changed the subject. I let her squirm. The kids were my shield and my fuel. Ethan's questions were getting harder. Why mom was always on her phone, why we didn't do family movie nights anymore. I deflected, kept him busy with projects, but I saw the hurt in his eyes. Lily was clinging to routine, asking me to check her homework because mom forgets. I did it all, homework, soccer, bedtime, while Clara floated through, distracted. I didn't call her out. I wanted her to feel the weight of her absence, to see what she was losing without me saying a word. Mike's next move was bold. He'd posed as a journalist, emailing Alex's clients with questions about his ethics. Nothing accusatory, just enough to stir unease. One client, a big gallery, had already pulled a project. I didn't tell Mike to stop. I told him to push harder. If Alex's career tanked, Clara would see him not as her savior but as a liability. I imagined her face when she realized her escape was nothing but a sinking ship. The thought kept me awake, not with pain now, but with anticipation. Clara came home one night, quieter than usual. She didn't mention Alex, but I saw her check her phone, frown, type furiously. Trouble in paradise, maybe. I didn't ask, just offered her tea, sat across from her, and watched her fidget. Rough day, I said, voice soft. She nodded, avoided my eyes. Just Stuff at work. I smiled, leaned back. You'll figure it out. You always do. The words were kind, but the intent was anything but. I was done being her anchor. Let her drown in her choices. The revenge was no longer abstract, it had shape, edges. I wasn't just going to expose her. I was going to dismantle her world, piece by piece. Alex's career, her confidence, her place in our family. It would all slip through her fingers, and she'd have no one to blame but herself. I'd make sure of it. The keycard was still in my wallet, and used since that night at his loft. I didn't need it yet, but I kept it close, a reminder of how far I'd come, and how far I'd go. Clara was cracking, and I was the one turning the screw. The whispers about Alex had spread, 2 more clients had dropped him, and the art blog posted a follow-up, hinting at patterns of unprofessional behavior. I hadn't expected it to move this fast, but I wasn't complaining. Mike was worth every penny. His fake journalist act stirring just enough chaos to make Alex scramble. I pictured him sweating, trying to charm his way out, unaware I was the one pulling the strings. Clara hadn't mentioned it, but I saw the strain. Her phone was glued to her hand now, her texts unanswered for longer than usual. I kept my moves subtle but relentless. I'd leave notes for her, forgotten on the counter. Things like, asterisk, saw a cool exhibit downtown, near that cafe you like. Asterisk, I knew she'd connect the dots. Wonder how much I knew. She started avoiding certain topics, steering conversations to the kids or my work. I let her, playing the oblivious husband, but I dropped bombs when she least expected. Heard about some photographer getting bad press, I said one morning over coffee. Shame sounded talented. Her spoon clinked against her mug, her smile forced. Yeah, people love drama, she muttered. I nodded, sipped my coffee, let the silence choke her. The kids were my focus, but they were also my weapon. I didn't mean to use them, not really, but Clara's absence was doing the work for me. Ethan stopped asking her for help with math. He came to me instead. Lily didn't beg for her bedtime stories anymore, curling up with me and a book I'd read 100 times. I'd catch Clara watching, her face tight, like she knew she was losing them. I didn't rub it in. I didn't have to. She was seeing the cost of her choices, and I made sure it hurt. You've been so busy, I'd say gentle when she missed Ethan's game. We're good, though. The we was me and the kids, and she felt it. Mike got me something new, access to Alex's bank account, courtesy of a shady contact. It wasn't clean money, side gigs, unreported cash, payments from clients who didn't exist. I didn't care about the ethics. I cared about the leverage. If I could tie this to Clara, even loosely, it'd be a grenade. I had Mike look for any transactions that matched her. Gifts, dinners, hotel stays. Nothing solid yet, but I was patient. I'd build the case until it was ironclad, until she couldn't talk her way out. One night, Clara came home rattled, her eyes red. She didn't say why, just poured a glass of wine and sat on the couch, staring at nothing. I sat beside her, asked if she wanted to talk. She shook her head, but her phone buzzed, and she flinched. Alex, I bet. Trouble was brewing, and I was the storm. I didn't push, just rested my hand on hers, the picture of support. Whatever's going on, I'm here, I said. She nodded, but her hand trembled. For the first time, I saw fear in her, and it felt like victory. I started planning the endgame, though the details were hazy. It wasn't enough to ruin Alex's career or make Clara doubt him. I wanted her to lose everything she thought she'd gained. Her confidence, her escape, her place in our world. I imagined a public unraveling. Not a screaming match, but a quiet, devastating exposure. Maybe her studio peers, her clients, seeing her for what she was. Maybe Alex's other women, all of them realizing they'd been played. I didn't know yet, but the vision was sharpening, and I was ready to wield it. The keycard was still there, a talisman of my resolve. I hadn't gone back to Alex's loft, but I dreamed about it, what I'd leave there, what I'd take. A note, maybe, or nothing at all, just the knowledge I'd been inside their sanctuary. Clara thought she was untouchable, floating above consequences. I'd bring her back to earth, and when she landed, she'd see me, not as the man she'd betrayed, but as the one who'd outplayed her. The storm was here, and Clara was caught in it, though she didn't know I was the one steering the winds. The art world was buzzing now. Alex's name was mud, with a third client publicly cutting ties, citing trust issues. The blog had escalated, naming him in a piece about toxic creatives, and social media was picking it up. Mike's fake journalist had done more than stir the pot. He'd tipped it over. I didn't feel joy, not exactly, just a cold satisfaction. Alex was sinking, and Clara was tied to him, whether she admitted it or not. She was a mess, though she tried to hide it. Her phone was a lifeline, but the calls were shorter, the texts unanswered. I'd catch her staring at the screen, her jaw tight, then forcing a smile when Lily ran in. I didn't ask what was wrong. I didn't need to. Mike had sent me a new email from her to Alex, sent 2 days ago. Asterisk, what's happening? People are talking. Are you okay? Asterisk, no reply from him, at least not in her inbox. I printed it, added it to my box. Every word she wrote was another nail, and I was building her coffin. I kept the pressure on, surgical now. I'd mention the blog in passing, say I'd read something interesting about local artists. Her eyes would dart to me, searching for a trap, but I'd smile, change the topic. I left a magazine open to an article about betrayal, not cheating, just broken partnerships, knowing she'd see it. She did, her fingers lingering on the page before she closed it. I started inviting her to things, dinners, walks, knowing she'd say no, knowing each refusal drove a wedge between her and the kids. Ethan barely looked at her now. Lily stopped asking for her. I didn't push them away from her. I just let her absence do the work. Mike found the link I'd been waiting for. A payment from Clara's account to a hotel, the same one they'd used, booked under Alex's name. It wasn't huge, but it was proof, her money, her choice, tangled in his world. I had Mike dig deeper, looking for anything else. Gifts, transfers, even a coffee run that could tie her to him publicly. I wasn't sure how I'd use it yet, but I wanted every angle covered. If I could show she'd funded his lifestyle, even a piece of it, it'd paint her not as a victim but as a partner in his mess. That night, Clara broke. She came home late, her face pale, her hands shaking. She didn't hug me, didn't speak, just poured a drink and sat at the table, staring at her phone. I waited, then sat across from her, quiet. Bad day? I asked, voice soft. She nodded, tears welling, but didn't look at me. It's complicated, she whispered. I wanted to laugh, to scream, but I leaned forward, touched her arm. You can tell me anything, I said. She shook her head, stood, and left the room. I heard the bathroom door lock, the faint sound of sobs. For a moment I felt a pang, old love, maybe, but it passed. She'd chosen this. The revenge was ready or close to it. I didn't want a scene, not yet. I wanted her to unravel completely, to see Alex for the fraud he was, to lose her grip on the life she thought she'd built with him. Then, when she was at her lowest, I'd show her the truth. Not just that I knew, but that I'd orchestrated it all. I'd expose her to her world, her studio, her friends, our families. Not with anger, but with calm, undeniable proof. And Alex? He'd be collateral, his career in ashes, his charm useless. The keycard was still there, waiting. I'd use it soon, not to confront but to plant something. The house felt like a stage now, every moment a performance. Clara was a ghost of herself. Distracted, jumpy, her laughter hollow. I watched her unravel, and it wasn't enough to satisfy me anymore. It was fuel for the next step. The art world had turned on Alex completely. A fourth client had dropped him, and a local gallery canceled his upcoming show, citing reputational concerns. Mike's work had snowballed. The whispers I'd planted now a roar. Clara hadn't mentioned him, but her phone was a lifeline she clutched tighter each day, her face falling when no reply came. I didn't need to see her messages to know he was pulling away. Good. Let her feel the void. Mike's latest find was gold. A contract between Clara and Alex for a collaborative project that never existed. It was a cover, a way to funnel money to him, small amounts but enough to look suspicious if exposed. The contract was sloppy, rushed, as if they thought no one would look. I did. I had Mike scan it, highlight the discrepancies, and cross-reference it with her bank records. There it was, payments to Alex, labeled consulting, matching dates they'd met at the hotel. It wasn't just betrayal now, it was financial entanglement, something I could use to ruin her professionally, not just personally. At home, I tightened the screws. I'd leave my phone out, a photo of us from happier times as the wallpaper, knowing she'd see it and flinch. I'd talk about trust, casual, over dinner, how it was the foundation of everything. Can't imagine breaking that, I'd say, eyes on her. She'd nod, pick at her food, change the subject. I started inviting her friends over, people from her studio, forcing her to play the perfect wife. She hated it, I could tell. Her smiles were brittle, her stories vague. I'd watch her squirm, then charm her friends myself, planting seeds of doubt. Clara's been so busy, I'd say, concerned. Hope she's not overdoing it. The kids were my heart, but they were also my mirror, reflecting Clara's absence. Ethan stopped talking to her about school. He'd show me his projects instead, his pride reserved for me. Lily's drawings were darker now. Houses with only 3 people, Clara nowhere in sight. I didn't encourage it, but I didn't stop it either. They were choosing me just as Clara had chosen Alex. I took them to my sister's for a weekend, told Clara it was to give her space. She didn't argue, just nodded, her eyes distant. I wanted her to feel the emptiness of our home, to sit in the silence of her choices. Mike suggested I act soon. The contract was enough to go public, to tip off her studio or her clients. I hesitated, not because I doubted the plan, but because I wanted more. I wanted her to see Alex's ruin first, to know she'd tied herself to a sinking ship. I had Mike draft an anonymous letter, addressed to her studio head, hinting at her unethical collaboration with a disgraced photographer. I didn't send it, not yet. It was a loaded gun, waiting for the right moment. Instead, I used the keycard again, slipping into Alex's loft while he was out. I left nothing behind, took nothing. Just stood there, breathing in the space where she'd betrayed me. It was enough for now. Clara came home one night, her face a mask of exhaustion. She didn't speak, just poured a drink and sat by the window, staring at the dark. I didn't approach her. I didn't need to. She was breaking and I was the architect. The revenge wasn't just about exposure anymore. It was about stripping her bare, leaving her with nothing but the truth. Alex was crumbling, her career was next, and our family? That was mine now. She'd see it all soon, and when she did, I'd be the one standing tall, the man she underestimated, the one who'd won. Clara was a shadow now, moving through our house like a stranger. The light in her eyes, the spark I'd once loved, was gone, replaced by something brittle, haunted. I didn't pity her. She'd built this cage and I was locking the door. Alex's world was in freefall. Another gallery had blacklisted him, and a former client was threatening to sue, claiming he'd faked invoices. The blog had named him outright, calling him a charlatan in the art scene. Mike's whispers had become a megaphone, and I reveled in it. Clara hadn't said his name, but I saw her flinch at every notification, her fingers trembling as she checked her phone. I pushed harder, no longer subtle. I left a printout of the blog post on the counter, forgotten, after reading it at work. She found it, her face paling as she scanned the words. "Rough stuff?" I said, glancing over her shoulder. "Guy sounds like bad news." She nodded, crumpled the paper, and threw it away. But I saw her hands shake, saw the panic she couldn't hide. I kept going, mentioning a friend who'd heard about a photographer scamming people, asking if she knew anyone like that. "Hope you're not mixed up with anyone shady," I said, half laughing. Her silence was louder than any confession. The kids were pulling away, and it was killing her. Ethan didn't ask her to his games anymore. He'd text me from school, asking me to pick him up. Lily stopped showing her drawings, hiding them under her bed instead. I found one. A family picnic, just me, Ethan, and her, with a cloud where Clara should have been. I didn't show it to Clara, but I left it where she'd see it, tucked in a book she'd been reading. She didn't mention it, but I heard her crying in the bathroom later, muffled sobs she thought I couldn't hear. I felt nothing. She'd chosen this distance. Mike's final piece was a bombshell. A recorded call between Alex and a woman, not Clara, where he bragged about playing the field and keeping things loose. The woman laughed, but there was an edge to it, like she knew she wasn't special. Mike had tracked her down, a curator single, another of Alex's strings. I had him save the audio, transcribe it, and pair it with the burner phone texts. It was a portrait of a man who didn't love, only used. I didn't send it to Clara yet, but I was close. I wanted her to hear it when she was at her lowest, when she had nothing left to cling to. I used the keycard one last time, late at night, when I knew Alex was gone. I didn't touch anything, just walked through his loft, memorizing the space. Her scarf was still there, draped over a chair, a relic of her betrayal. I took a photo, not for proof but for me, a reminder of why I was doing this. I left something behind this time. A single page from her sketchbook, torn out months ago, with a doodle she'd made for him. I placed it on his table, no note, no explanation. Let him wonder. Let her panic when he asked. Clara came home that night, her eyes hollow. She didn't try to hug me, didn't speak, just went to bed. I waited until she was asleep, then checked her phone. Unlocked, careless, a sign of her collapse. There it was, a text from Alex, the first in days. Asterisk, we need to talk. Something's off. Asterisk, I didn't reply, didn't need to. The end was coming and I was ready. The letter to her studio was typed, the audio was cued, the contract was copied. I'd expose her not with rage, but with precision. Her career, her friends, her pride, all gone. Alex would be a footnote, a ruined man with nothing to offer. And me? I'd be the father, the survivor, the one who'd outsmarted them both. The stage was set, and Clara was about to face the curtain. The moment was close, and I could taste it, sharp, bitter, satisfying. Clara was a wreck, barely holding herself together. She'd stopped pretending at home, her smiles gone, her voice flat. She'd check her phone obsessively, then slam it down when no reply came. Alex was ghosting her or close to it. Mike's audio had confirmed he was juggling others, and his career collapse was keeping him distracted. I didn't care why. I cared that she was alone, just as I'd planned. The blog had posted another piece, this one naming Clara as a collaborator in Alex's questionable projects. It was vague, no proof yet, but it was enough to make her studio whisper. I'd made sure of that. I didn't confront her. Confrontation was too cheap, too quick. Instead, I orchestrated her exposure, slow and deliberate. I sent the anonymous letter to her studio head, attaching the contract and a screenshot of her payment to Alex's hotel. I didn't accuse outright, just raised concerns about her professional judgment. I knew how her world worked. A hint was enough to start questions, to make her peers look twice. I sent a second email to a client she'd bragged about, same tone, same evidence. Not enough to sue, but enough to make them doubt her. I wanted her to feel the ground shift, to see her reputation fray before she understood why. At home, I was the perfect husband, too perfect. I'd cook dinner, help the kids with homework, ask about her day with a warmth that felt like a blade. She'd mumble responses, avoid my eyes, her guilt a weight she couldn't shake. I'd catch her staring at me sometimes, like she was trying to read me, but I gave her nothing, just a smile, a pat on the hand. One night, I played a song from her sketchbook days, one she'd hummed with Alex. She froze, her fork halfway to her mouth, then excused herself. I heard the sink running, her splashing water to hide tears. I didn't follow, let her drown. The kids were my strength, but they were also my edge. Ethan had stopped talking to her altogether, answering her questions with shrugs. Lily clung to me, asking if I'd ever leave. Never, I told her and meant it. I took them to a counselor, said it was for family changes, and let Clara think it was routine. I was building their future, one where she'd have to fight to stay relevant. I didn't badmouth her. I didn't need to. Her absence, her distraction was enough. Ethan's science fair was coming up. I helped him build a model rocket, told Clara the wrong date by mistake. She missed it. His face when she didn't show was all I needed to keep going. Mike's last gift was a dossier, every piece of dirt on Alex, from the burner phone to the ex-client lawsuits to the curator's audio. I added Clara's emails, her payments, her lies, and bound it all in a folder. Not for her, not yet, but for me. A testament to what I'd uncovered, what I'd survived. I kept it locked in my office, a weight I carried with pride. I didn't need the keycard anymore. I'd taken what I needed from Alex's world. Now I was reshaping hers. Clara got a call from her studio that night, her face ashen as she listened. She didn't tell me what it was, but I knew. The letter had landed. She left the room, her voice low as she argued with someone, probably her boss. When she came back, she looked at me, really looked, for the first time in weeks. Everything okay? I asked, voice steady. She nodded, but her eyes were wild, searching for something I wouldn't give. The unveiling had begun, and she was starting to see the stage. Not me, not yet, but the consequences. I'd show her the director soon enough, and when I did, she'd know the cost of crossing me. Clara's world was imploding, and I was the silent engineer. Her studio had called her in for a review, a polite way of saying they were sniffing around the contract I'd leaked. She didn't tell me, of course. She'd stopped sharing anything real, but I saw the email from her boss on her laptop, left open in her panic. Asterisk, we need to discuss your recent collaborations. Concerns have been raised. Asterisk, concerns I'd raised, anonymous but precise. She spent the day pacing, typing furiously, her face a mask of dread. I offered coffee, asked if she was okay, my voice all concern. She snapped, I'm fine. then apologized, her hands shaking. I nodded, retreated, let her stew. Alex was done. His last gallery deal had collapsed, and the lawsuit was moving forward, his name poison in the art scene. Mike had caught him arguing with the curator on a call, blaming her for talking too much. The audio was brutal. Alex unraveling, his charm gone, just a desperate man lashing out. I saved it, paired it with Clara's emails, and sent it anonymously to her personal account from a dummy address. No message, just the files. I wanted her to hear him, to see the man she'd risked everything for. I watched her open it that night, her face crumpling as his voice filled the room. She shut her laptop, hard, and didn't look at me. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. The kids were my sanctuary, but they were also her punishment. Ethan's rocket won second place. I was there, cheering, while Clara was at her meeting. He didn't mention her absence, but I saw it in his eyes. Lily stopped asking for her at bedtime, curling up with me instead, her stuffed bear tucked under her chin. I'd read to her, my voice steady, while Clara sat downstairs, staring at nothing. I didn't exclude her. I invited her to join us, knowing she'd say no. Her guilt was a chain, and I let it tighten. "You're missing a lot," I said once, soft. When she skipped Ethan's practice, she flinched, didn't reply. "Good. Feel it." Her studio called again, this time demanding documents, proof of her project with Alex. She didn't have it, couldn't have it, because it was a lie. I'd made sure the contract looked flimsy, easy to question. Mike had tipped off a friend at the studio, a junior designer who'd spread the word. Clara's name was now tied to Alex's ruin, not as a victim but as a partner. Her clients were pulling back. One had already canceled a campaign, citing scheduling issues. Lies, but she knew why. I saw her check her bank account, her savings, her face pale as she realized how thin the ice was. I kept the pressure on, relentless now. I'd leave notes about trust, misplace a photo of us from our wedding, let her find it. I'd hum that song, the one from her Alex days, until she left the room. I didn't yell, didn't accuse. I was her mirror, reflecting her choices. She was breaking, and I was there, calm, unshaken, the man she couldn't read. One night, she tried to talk, her voice small. "Dan, do you ever feel lost?" I looked at her, steady. "Not anymore," I said. She didn't push, just nodded, tears in her eyes. I felt nothing. The final blow was ready. I'd compiled everything, the contract, the payments, the emails, the audio, even her sketchbook doodles for him. Not for her, but for her world. Her studio, her clients, her friends, our families. I'd send it all, not as a scorned husband, but as a concerned colleague, letting the truth do the work. Alex was already gone, his life in ashes. Clara was next, her career, her pride, her place with our kids, all slipping away. I wasn't destroying her. I was letting her destroy herself. And when it was over, I'd be there, with Ethan and Lily, building a life she'd never touch again. It was time. Clara's collapse was complete. She barely left the house now, her phone silent, her eyes red from crying she thought I didn't hear. Her studio had suspended her, pending an ethics review. The contract I'd leaked now a noose around her neck. 2 more clients had dropped her, and her friends were quiet, their texts unanswered. The blog had mentioned her again, a single line about associates caught in Alex's fallout. She knew it was her. I saw her Google herself, her face crumpling at the results. Alex was gone, no calls, no texts, his loft listed for sale. Mike confirmed he'd left town, tail between his legs, his reputation ash. I'd broken him, and now it was her turn. I didn't rush the final act. I savored it, planned it like a chess move. The dossier was ready. Every piece of her betrayal polished and undeniable. I didn't want a fight, a tearful confession. I wanted her to face the world she'd built, to see it crumble under the weight of truth. I sent the package to her studio head, her top client, and 3 of her closest friends, all from the same anonymous account. No accusations, just facts. The contract, the payments, her emails to Alex, the audio of him mocking love itself. I added 1 photo, her scarf at his loft, time-stamped, a silent witness. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. At home I was calm, almost kind. I'd make breakfast, take the kids to school, ask Clara if she needed anything. She'd mumble, avoid me, her guilt a wall between us. I didn't push. I didn't need to. The emails had landed. I knew from Mike, who'd hacked her inbox again. Her boss had replied, cold, asterisk, We'll discuss this tomorrow. Asterisk her client was harsher, canceling all future work. Her friends were silent, one asking, asterisk, is this true? Asterisk she didn't answer, couldn't. I watched her read them, her hands shaking, her world shrinking to nothing. The kids were my victory. Ethan thanked me for being at his science fair, said I was the best. Lily drew a new picture. Me, her, Ethan, a bright sun overhead. Clara wasn't in it. I framed it, hung it in the hall where she'd see it. She did, her eyes lingering, but she said nothing. I took them to my parents for the weekend, told Clara I'd handle everything. Rest? I said, my voice soft. She nodded, didn't meet my eyes. I wanted her alone when it hit, when her phone lit up with the fallout. And it did. Mike sent me screenshots of her friend's group chat, questions turning to judgment, her name a stain. I came home Sunday night, the kids asleep in the car. Clara was on the couch, her face blank, a glass of wine untouched beside her. She looked at me finally and spoke. Dan, I messed up. Her voice cracked, but I didn't flinch. Yeah, I said, even you did. I didn't yell, didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. She started to cry, words tumbling. Sorry. Confused, didn't mean to hurt. I listened, silent, until she stopped. I know everything, I said, calm, final. And so does everyone else. Her eyes widened, panic flaring, but I didn't explain. I didn't need to. She'd see it. Her studio, her friends, her life all gone. I took the kids upstairs, tucked them in. Clara stayed below, silent. I didn't sleep beside her that night, choosing the guest room. The next day, I called a lawyer, started the papers. Not for divorce, not yet, but for custody, for protection. She'd lost her career, her pride, her place in our world. I keep the kids, the home, the life we'd built. She'd have nothing but her regret, and that was my revenge. Not violence, not screams, but truth, cold and sharp, cutting deeper than any blade. I'd won, and she'd live with that forever.